Trump has taken James Carville's maxim from 1992, little sticky on the door for Bill Clinton in their war room as Bill Clinton ran for president. It's the economy, stupid. And that's the fact. It's the economy. And Trump has made a decision that this militaristic posturing by the United States is economically detrimental to the national security of the United States. I don't know how big our trade relationship is with France or Europe. I do know that it's not $7 trillion. That's the size of the mineral deposits that Vladimir Putin put on the table the other day for joint exploitation by the United States and Russia. This is in addition to the $350 to $500 billion worth of minerals, and it's opening the door for others. Multi-trillion-dollar deposits in the Congo are now on the table for the United States and perhaps Russia, if it becomes a good partner, to develop in Africa to create security. You see what's happening here. It's a paradigm shift in how security guarantees are being viewed by the world. No longer is it about American divisions on the ground or anybody's divisions on the ground. It's about economic relationships. And France doesn't get it. See, France isn't proposing an economic relationship. Europe continues to commit suicide. Germany last year spent $21 billion buying liquid natural gas from the United States. We provide 80% of Germany's liquid natural gas, by the way. And yet they turned around and spent $18 billion funneling that to Ukraine. Think of the economics of that, and how stupid it is, and how it's committing suicide. All of Europe is committing suicide. There's not a single European nation whose economic balance sheet makes sense from this war. They're destroying themselves economically. And again, Trump isn't playing the game. Who are they trying to impress? Europe will never be able to stand up to Russia. I already told you that if France puts nuclear-capable aircraft into Germany, it destroys the decades-old American-backed NATO nuclear deterrence capability. And Trump will walk away from that in a heartbeat. And then France is left holding a bag that it can't afford to hold. It will fold like a house of cards, together with the rest of Europe.
The world is shifting, and most people don't even realize it. Europe? It's committing economic suicide. The old way of securing power through military alliances? Dead. The future is being decided in boardrooms, not on battlefields. And while European leaders cling to outdated strategies, Trump is tearing up the rulebook, ready to throw NATO under the bus for economic gain. This isn't just politics. It's a seismic shift in global power. Scott Ritter paints a grim picture. Europe is stuck in the past, blindly marching towards self-destruction while the real game is being played elsewhere. The war isn't being fought with tanks and missiles anymore. It's being waged with trade deals and economic leverage. And in this new world, Trump doesn't see allies, only financial opportunities. Meanwhile, Russia dangles unimaginable wealth, and the U.S. faces a choice. Hold on to its old alliances or embrace an economic future that could rewrite global power structures forever. As we move on from analyzing Douglas Macgregor's perspective, the real battlefield tells a very different story. The situation on the ground is evolving at an alarming pace, and the war in Ukraine is reaching another pivotal moment. Reports from the front lines indicate that the battle for Kursk Oblast has entered its final decisive stage. The past 12 hours have been nothing short of catastrophic for the Ukrainian defenders in the region, and the tide of battle is shifting rapidly. What we are witnessing right now could be the beginning of a significant breakthrough, one that might alter the entire trajectory of the war. For weeks, Russian forces have been steadily building up pressure in the Kursk region, launching relentless offensives in an attempt to trap and encircle Ukrainian troops. But now, on the morning of March 8, 2025, the battle has escalated dramatically. Reports from multiple sources indicate that Russian armed groups have begun moving directly toward the city of Sudzha, one of the last remaining strongholds of Ukrainian resistance in the area. The importance of Sudzha cannot be overstated. It is the key to controlling the region's supply lines and a critical defensive point before the Russians can push deeper towards Sumy. If Sudzha falls, Ukrainian forces in the region will be left with little choice but to retreat towards Sumy, or risk being completely surrounded and annihilated. According to pro-Russian sources, anywhere between 4,700 and 6,300 Ukrainian soldiers are currently trapped in an encirclement, with no escape routes available. These troops now face an impossible choice: either attempt a desperate breakout, with only 15 to 20% of them having any real chance of survival, or surrender to the advancing Russian forces. Blocking them completely is proving difficult due to the chaotic nature of the battle, but it is clear that their only options are surrender or death. The dire situation has led to a total breakdown in Ukrainian military communications. Electronic warfare tactics have disrupted their signals, and Starlink systems have been down since Monday. With no way to coordinate their defenses effectively, Ukrainian units have been left to fight in isolated, disorganized groups, completely cut off from higher command. Reports indicate that some of these stranded units have begun negotiating their surrender with Russian forces. In a desperate bid to save themselves, certain groups are reportedly offering to hand over valuable Western-supplied equipment, including advanced drones, satellite encryption systems, electronic warfare devices, and even armored vehicles, in exchange for safe evacuation. Over 1,000 Ukrainian fighters are allegedly ready to surrender immediately, and an additional 230 seriously wounded soldiers are in desperate need of medical assistance. During the night of March 7th to 8th, reports emerged that Ukrainian forces fled the settlement under the cover of darkness. Using the night as a shield, they attempted to break free from the encirclement, but many were cut down by Russian artillery and drone strikes. Every road leading out of the pocket was either under direct fire or constantly surveilled by Russian drones. Escape is becoming nearly impossible. Those who attempted to retreat southward toward Kazakh found themselves facing another grim reality. Russian forces had already surrounded the settlement on 3 sides. By the morning of March 8th, it became clear that Ukrainian positions in the area were collapsing. Videos are expected to surface soon, showing Russian flags being raised over captured territory. As grim as the situation appears, not all Ukrainian forces are surrendering. Some continue to fight desperately, launching counterattacks wherever possible. However, their efforts are becoming increasingly futile. Aerial footage from Russian sources shows Ukrainian vehicles being systematically targeted and destroyed by Russian FPV drones. In one of the most crucial moments of the battle, Russian forces destroyed a key bridge in Sudzha by striking Ukrainian-planted mines beneath it. This act effectively cut off the last viable escape route for Ukrainian troops still holding out in the city. Without reinforcements, supplies, or the possibility of retreat, the remaining defenders of Sudzha now face total annihilation. Further south, a full-scale Russian offensive is reportedly underway toward Yaka. Satellite imagery from the battlefield shows multiple points of fire anomalies, indicating heavy artillery bombardments and airstrikes. The Russians have also reportedly advanced between Novinka and Basava, further tightening the noose around the trapped Ukrainian forces. The Ukrainian government is now grappling with a disastrous reality. Reports from sources like Politico suggest that Kyiv is seriously considering withdrawing its remaining troops from Kursk Oblast to prevent further losses. The Ukrainian leadership had hoped to use its military presence in the region as leverage in potential peace negotiations with Moscow. But with its forces now on the verge of collapse, that leverage is rapidly slipping away. Ukrainian media outlets have begun publishing articles acknowledging the severity of the situation, stating that troops in Kursk Oblast are almost completely surrounded. This is a devastating blow to Ukraine's strategic plans, as Russian advances have cut the Ukrainian group in two and severed its main supply routes. In addition to ground assaults, Russia has also intensified its aerial bombardments. Massive Iskander missile strikes targeted Ukrainian positions on March 7th, causing heavy losses. Russian sources claim that these missile barrages are part of a broader strategy to break Ukrainian morale and force further surrenders. Meanwhile, in the southern sector of the battlefield, Russian forces destroyed yet another key pontoon bridge, further restricting Ukrainian movements and leaving thousands of troops stranded without logistical support. As if the situation in Kursk Oblast wasn't dire enough, Ukrainian forces are also struggling in other critical sectors. Chase of Yar, Ukrainian troops report that Russian forces have intensified their attacks in the northwestern part of the city, attempting to overrun the last remaining defensive lines. Although some Russian assaults were repelled, Ukrainian forces have not launched any significant counterattacks, suggesting they are on the defensive and possibly preparing to withdraw. Pokrovsk direction. Here, Ukrainian forces have seen some tactical success, reportedly regaining control of the northern part of the city. However, Russian troops have regrouped in the south and are preparing a new offensive. This battle remains highly fluid, with both sides taking losses. Zaporizhzhia sector. Russian forces have secured Andreevka and are now advancing towards Zaporizhzhia, attempting to cut off another critical Ukrainian supply corridor. The coming days will be decisive. If Suja falls, it will mark a significant Russian victory, potentially leading to a full-scale collapse of Ukrainian defenses in Kursk Oblast. With thousands of troops either surrendering, dying, or fleeing, Kyiv is running out of options. As the battle enters its final stage, one thing is clear. The situation is spiraling out of control for Ukraine in this region. The next 24 to 48 hours will determine whether this is merely a tactical setback or a catastrophic defeat with far-reaching consequences for the war.